Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I made these delicious gourmet fall donuts. This recipe is made with one base dough, which I'm going to be using to make 4 different delicious fall flavored donuts. The flavors include salted caramel, molasses and tahini, chocolate orange, and cinnamon apple, which is my personal favorite. So without further ado, let's get started. In the bowl of your stand mixer, you're going to combine together some whole milk, instant yeast, and granulated sugar. Now in a separate bowl, I'm going to mix together 2 eggs and 1 egg yolk, and then I'm going to add this in with the milk as well. Now this dough is a bit sticky, so that's why I'm using my stand mixer, but you can definitely make this dough by hand as well. The entire written recipe for this is available on my website with tips, tricks, step-by-step instructions. You'll find everything, and you can find a link to that in the description box below. Now in a separate bowl, I just combined together my all-purpose flour and salt, and then I'm going to turn the mixer on medium-high speed and let that mix. Now I'm going to gradually add in the all-purpose flour until a dough is formed. Now I did start off by just dumping the bowl like this, but it was a little bit difficult, so I did take a spoon and just spooned it in 2 to 3 tablespoons at a time. While that mixes, I just want to let you guys know that this recipe is more for like intermediate or experienced bakers or chefs because it does involve a lot of components and many steps, but that definitely does not mean that you cannot try this out if you are a beginner, because if you follow the step-by-step instructions and use the video, you will end up with some delicious donuts. But if you're looking for an easier recipe, I do have a simpler, easy donut recipe and you can use that instead. Once the dough has come together, I'm going to go ahead and add in softened unsalted butter in about 2 batches, mixing well between each addition. You can continue to knead this on medium or medium-high speed. Once you've added in all of the butter, let this knead for an additional 5 minutes on medium speed until the dough has really come together and starts to pull away from the sides of the bowl. As you can see, the dough is still very sticky, and don't worry, that is totally normal. That's just what we want. The more stickier the dough is, the more fluffy and amazing your donuts are going to be. I'm going to transfer the dough out onto a well-floured surface and just bring it together like this into a smooth ball. You can use as much flour as you need to bring the dough together, but just don't add too much or this is going to alter the texture of our donuts. Now I'm going to place this in a separate greased bowl, and then we're going to cover and let this rest at room temperature or in a warm place for about 1.5 hours to 2 hours. While that rests, let's work on the fillings for the donuts. Now 3 of the donuts have fillings, so let's work on the first one, which is the cinnamon apple donuts, which is going to be filled with a cinnamon and apple mixture. I'm going to start off by peeling and slicing 2 medium-sized apples into small chunks like this. You do want to make sure to chop them up nice and small because we are going to fill this into the donut, so you don't want huge chunks or else it's not going to go through the piping bag. Add the chopped apples into a medium-sized saucepan along with some brown sugar, some cornstarch, and lemon juice. Remember that cornstarch and corn flour are 2 separate things. We want to use cornstarch, not corn flour. You can leave the lemon juice out if you'd like, but it gives the filling a delicious, tangy flavor. Give this a good mix, and then we're going to place this on medium-high flame and cook for about 5 to 7 minutes. If you feel that the mixture is drying out and burning, you can add about a tablespoon of water. Once the mixture thickens and the apples are fully cooked, you're going to take this off the flame, and let's move on to the next filling, which is the chocolate orange filling. Now to make this mixture, I'm going to combine together some whole milk, orange zest, and cocoa powder in a small saucepan and heat that up just a little bit. We're going to be using this mixture to flavor our pastry cream to make it into a chocolate orange pastry cream filling. Once the cocoa powder is fully dissolved, just set this aside and let's move on to the next step. I have here some pastry cream. This is one batch of my pastry cream recipe. You can find a link to that in the description box below, and I'm going to take this batch and divide it into half. We're going to use 1/2 for the salted caramel donuts and 1/2 for the chocolate orange donuts. Into 1/2 of the pastry cream, I'm going to add in the chocolate orange milk mixture that we just made. Make sure to strain it because you don't want any of those little pieces of orange zest. I'm also adding in about 2 to 3 tablespoons of Nutella. You can also use any other chocolate hazelnut spread. Give that a good mix, and then this is going to be our chocolate orange pastry cream filling for the chocolate orange donuts. If you feel that it needs more chocolate flavor, you can add more Nutella. For the salted caramel pastry cream, I'm adding about 2 tablespoons of salted caramel sauce. You can use homemade or store-bought. Give that a good mix, and this is our filling for the salted caramel donuts. You can find my recipe for the sauce in the description box below. Here are the 3 fillings. We have cinnamon apple, salted caramel pastry cream, and chocolate orange pastry cream. These fillings can be made about 2 to 3 days in advance and stored in the refrigerator. While we make the donuts, make sure to store your fillings in the fridge. Now let's move on to the dough. As you can see, it's nice and fluffy. I'm going to press that down gently and then bring it out onto a floured surface. Now we're going to roll this out into a rectangle that's about 3/4 of an inch in thickness, and then we're going to cut out our donuts. To cut out the donuts, you can use a cookie cutter that's about 2 inches in diameter. I did not have that, so I used a large glass like this. Just press it down and cut out the donuts. And then for the molasses and tahini donut, it is a classic donut shape, so we're going to cut out the donuts holes. I just used a small piping tip for that. This recipe gives 24 donuts in total, so about 5 or 6 of each flavor. The scraps can be re-rolled and then cut out again until you've used up all of your dough. Place these cutouts onto a lined baking sheet and then cover and let that rest for an additional 30 to 40 minutes. While the donuts rest again, let's work on the toppings or the glaze. For the cinnamon apple donuts, I'm going to be making a cinnamon sugar mixture that we're going to roll the donuts in. All you have to do is combine together some granulated sugar with ground cinnamon, and that's it. As for the molasses and tahini donut, the flavor is going to be in the glaze because it does not have a filling. We're going to combine together some powdered sugar, some molasses and tahini with a splash of milk, and then give that a good mix. This is going to be the glaze, and let me tell you that this glaze smells amazing and it is so nutty and delicious. You can add more milk if you need, but just remember that the consistency shouldn't be too thick or too thin. When you do come back to glaze your donuts, and if the glaze is thickened, you can easily loosen it with some more milk. As for the chocolate orange, I'm using chocolate ganache as a topping, but you can also just make a regular chocolate glaze with powdered sugar and cocoa powder. For the salted caramel, I'm going to be using my salted caramel sauce that I used to flavor the cream. We're almost done, I promise, so let's finally fry these donuts. Heat up some vegetable oil to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and fry the donuts in batches of 4 or 5 at a time, and you want to cook them for 40 or 60 seconds on each side. We're looking for this beautiful golden brown color. Don't make them dark brown or black. If you have a thermometer, this is a place you would use it because it is so important to make sure you cook these at a constant temperature for the perfect fluffy donuts. Once they're nice and brown on each side, go ahead and take them out of the oil and let that drain on a paper towel or a wire rack and let them cool down completely before you move on to the fillings and the glazes. Repeat this process until you've fried all of your donuts. One thing I forgot to mention is that you can just cut the parchment paper around the donuts to make little squares like this and use that to just plop them into the oil. Be very careful because the oil is really hot. If you love fall flavors as much as I do, then you should definitely check out all of my other fall recipes. I will leave a link to the playlist in the description box below. All of my donuts are fully cooled, so let's move on to the fillings and the toppings. The first thing that I did was coat 5 of the donuts in the cinnamon sugar. These are going to be the cinnamon apple donuts. The next thing that I did was use an offset spatula to make the holes for the fillings. Now after this, I did realize that this spatula was a little bit too big and I should have used something that was a little smaller, like a large skewer or something like that. So keep that in mind when you're doing this. I'm going to be doing this for all the donuts except the ones that have the holes, which are going to be the molasses tahini donuts. Add in all of the fillings. I'm starting with the salted caramel filling and I'm going to add that into 5 of the donuts, which is like about 1/4 of all of the donuts. Next, I'm going to use the chocolate caramel filling and add that into the donuts as well. If you have one of those large piping tips that you use to fill donuts and eclairs, you can definitely use that, then you wouldn't need to make the holes in the beginning. If you did happen to make the holes a little bit too big like I did, what you can do as a quick fix, which I also did, was take one donut from the 24 donuts that doesn't look as pretty, and then like break off pieces to create like little knobs to cover the filling so that it doesn't spill out when we place them down. Now let's move on to the glaze. I'm going to first glaze the regular donuts, which is the molasses and tahini donuts. Remember that we made this glaze earlier. If you need, you can loosen it out with some more milk. Just dip it into the glaze like this, let the excess drip off, and then place it down onto a wire rack or a serving plate. This glaze does set up to become a little firm because it is made out of powdered sugar. Next, let's make the chocolate orange donuts. For the chocolate orange donuts, I'm using chocolate ganache. I will leave a link in the blog post for this recipe. Now, as you can see, the ganache is a bit thick and has a rough texture. I liked how it looked, so I left it like that, but if you want a smooth finish, you can add more heavy cream to make the ganache more liquidy. For the salted caramel donuts, I'm just dipping it in my homemade salted caramel sauce. If the sauce is a little too thick, again, you can use some heavy cream or you can warm it up in the microwave to loosen it up. And there you have it, your very own selection of fall flavored donuts. Now I'm going to call these donuts gourmet because of all the effort and time it took to make them, but I don't know if it's classified as gourmet. The flavors are delicious. It is so hard to pick a favorite, but if I had to pick one, I would pick the cinnamon apple because I just love the apple pie filling that's inside. The donuts themselves are soft and fluffy, and they actually stay like that for a couple of days if stored right. The fillings are so creamy and delicious, and you can find like tips and tricks and all of this stuff that I'm mentioning in the written blog post, and you can find a link to that in the description box below. This recipe is perfect for like parties and get-togethers or to make as a gift for your loved ones because they are just so good. Everyone's going to love them. If you haven't already, remember to subscribe to the Food Flamingo for more easy and delicious recipes just like this one. Like the video if you liked it and comment down below if you tried this recipe or if there's anything else you'd like me to make. And as always, thank you so much for watching and I will see you next time.